Episode 8, The Key is Moving Well by the PhytChick. I'm your host, Dr. Justin Trosclair, and today we hear Dr. Erin Conroy's perspective. For doctors who want a thriving practice and abundant home life, listen as your host, Dr. Justin Trosclair, goes behind the curtain and interviews doctors and guests about real-world triumph, struggles, practical tips, and entertainment on this episode of A Doctor's Perspective. Today we talk to a doctor of physical therapist, and she has a unique opportunity to rotate every few months around the hospital and experience lots of different types of physical therapy. And the two that we talk about today will be the NICU and spine-related injuries. And we go into a whole lot more details from, as usual, relationship advice, fun apps, just a great conversation. She's a great person, and I'm sure you're going to agree. You can hear all today's show notes at adoctorsperspective.net/08. Today's episode is sponsored by me. I'm super excited. We have merchandise at adoctorsperspective.net/shop. It's print on demand. So we have styles for men, styles for women, lots of different colors, t-shirts. We've got the logo, but we also have a special design for chiropractors. I would like to do more and expand into other professions, but for right now, that's all I have. If you like the show and you want to support it and wear a pretty sweet, soft, durable, printed in America t-shirt and more, doctorsperspective.net/shop. Also, if you were curious, the book cover is finished, getting it formatted, and then building a quick little page or two to explain why you should get it. I'm excited. It should be ready to go in just a couple weeks. Let's go #behind the curtain. Welcome to the show, Dr. Erin Conroy. She is a doctor of physical therapy from Columbia University, and she got her undergrad from the University of Michigan. She is now in the windy city of Chi-Town, that's Chicago, if you don't know street slang. And she works in a hospital doing two things that I'm interested in: acute care, NICU, and then inpatient rehab for spinal care injuries. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's just dive right into this thing. What kind of things do you treat for NICU?
Yes.
And what kind of age range is that? That's really interesting. I'm thinking torticollis, but what are you thinking?
Yeah. So NICU is something that even a lot of my coworkers are like, so what the heck are you doing in there? And a lot of times people are like, so are you just moving their limbs around? But it's really, so a lot of it is those premature babies. And then there might be some babies that are full term that have different issues going on. So a lot of the things that we work on are just getting them to tolerate handling and different positional changes, getting them to work on gaining midline, being able to work on those self-regulatory behaviors. Like we want them to be able to get to midline so that they can finger their face, they can do a hand clasp, and working on that midline orientation, because that's just very important for development of their motor skills and being able to self-calm. And then also working on like their state regulation. A lot of babies will have difficulty staying awake, especially with feeding. So just working on getting them to tolerate different positions and staying awake and just being able to bond with the caregiver. And a lot of babies just honestly need to be held. They need love. And when they're so young and little, they're just, the nurses are crazy busy in there. They have so many babies to take care of. They can't just be cuddling those babies all day. So they need that touch and that input to really help develop and regulate all those different aspects of their early development.
Absolutely. So based on like an occupational therapist and a physical therapist for with the hands going to the face, how do you guys different, or is there like definitely a blurry line depending on what hospital you're in and what they have available to pay for?
Yeah, I think it definitely varies on your setting. This is actually the only NICU I've ever worked in. So There is an occupational therapist in there as well. And a lot of times we will co-treat, and there is a blurred line when it comes to the NICU, I would say. Because the occupational therapist, maybe if there's more of if they need a splint or something, that would fall under more of the occupational therapy category. But the reason I actually fell into working in the NICU, I wasn't interested in pediatrics at all, to be honest, but I was doing a rotation in acute care, and one of the therapists that did a little bit of work in the NICU moved away, and they needed another therapist. I work with mainly adults. And I was like, hey, it sounds like a interesting opportunity. If you guys need someone, I'm definitely willing to learn. So I ended up training for a few months with the primary NICU therapist. So I do it just for a few hours twice a week. And it's really rewarding. So I don't have a lot of experience in different NICUs, but in this particular one, the occupational therapist and the physical therapist definitely have that blurred line of what we do.
And it sounds like it's sort of, like you said, it's kind of part-time. So are you spending most of your time with the spine rehab spinal injuries?
So actually where I work, I feel very fortunate that I got to start working where I did. You can rotate every 6 months, especially that first 2 years out of school. So, and then you can continue to rotate after that. But I worked a year in outpatient. I worked on the spinal cord unit for a rotation. I worked in acute care. And then actually, because I started working in the NICU, I was able to negotiate splitting my time. So I work half my time acute care and NICU and half my time in outpatient. So I was primarily on spinal cord injury last year, but I do cover there on weekends occasionally. And then in outpatient, we do see a lot of the patients who've had a spinal cord injury, who were in our inpatient unit. They'll follow up in outpatient. So it's kind of interesting seeing that whole continuum of care. Like some patients I'll see over in acute care, and then months down the road, following up with them in outpatient. So it's kind of cool.
So you didn't win on the conservative route. Sorry.
Definitely not.
Oh, man. So what kind of, so these people might be like hemiplegic, paraplegic, or just really bad like sciatica and neuropathies and things like that?
So I work on the west side of Chicago. So you probably are aware that Chicago has a lot of gun violence. So
number one, maybe number two.
So majority of the spinal cord injuries that I see are due to gunshot wounds.
Oh.
So yeah, so most of them end up being paraplegia or tetraplegia, and they could either be incomplete or complete. So some patients will work on just getting them independent, using that wheelchair, depending on the level of height, and if they have use of their arms. If it's a higher up injury, working on that caregiver training so that that patient is able to be, as well cared for as possible. And if they're able to speak, you can be able to independently direct their caregiver. So it's different from each patient. And if it's incomplete, then we will definitely work on strengthening those muscles they do have, and walking might be a goal down the road. It really depends with each patient and on the injury. But it is pretty cool to see. Like I had one patient when working in acute care, she couldn't even sit up. It was the most terrifying thing for her. Her blood pressure would drop. Her balance was horrendous. And she's actually working with one of my coworkers in outpatient now. And I remember thinking, wow, like she has nothing, like no movement. She's actually, like the other day, was walking with a walker and did the stairs. Granted, it's not a normal walking pattern, but this is someone that couldn't even sit, and it's almost a year later, and I see her walking and being able to do the stairs with help.
Wow. So, I mean, it sounds like your cases are definitely, there's no cookie cutter based on the patients that you have.
No, we have quite a wide range.
It sounds, so when it comes to this long of physical therapy, do you guys run into a lot of insurance issues, or do they have to become self-pay? I mean, how do they stay on that continuum for so long?
So we actually, majority of our insurance is Medicaid. And then at the hospital, we have self-pay, but that is actually ends up being just the hospital paying. So we tend to serve that like underserved population.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Somebody's got to.
The insurance issue, it's kind of like, well, we're treating anyway. In the outpatient, it's definitely more of an issue. The insurance limitations are pretty tough. Like the Medicaid, a lot of them will approve like evaluation only, and then you wait a long time for approval and then get more visits. So that's definitely an issue, especially with like knee replacements and ACL injuries, people who need that continuous care. And
Right.
it's just hard with that insurance that it ends up breaking up that level of care, and then there's regression and then have to work back up. So that's definitely an issue on the outpatient level.
Has it gotten worse since Obamacare, or has it kind of been about the same?
There was a period in that transitional period where everyone had to pick their insurance that things got a little murky. And
Yeah, for everybody, I think.
yeah, and then like some things weren't covered because people didn't know that they had switched plans yet. And to be honest, I don't know that much that goes on with the insurance stuff because we do some of the paperwork and let our lovely ladies up front figure out
got people for that.
Yeah, I like to stay out of it as much as possible.
Okay. So what would you consider some of the most common misconceptions about your profession?
So I would definitely say, there's two that that comes to mind. One, I would say a lot of people are like, get a massage, feel better, physical therapy. Yay.
It's the worst. Oh
yeah. Like, no, even the hands-on stuff, it's very focused. It's like, there's an evaluation, there's a reason for everything. It's very directed. And you know this in your profession. It's not, you're not just putting your hands on
Dr.
a patient.
Erin, can't you just stretch me?
Yeah, exactly. There's a reason, and you are working on a specific area. And the hands-on component is just a small part of our treatment session. There's that neuromuscular reeducation, the therapeutic exercise, and I think the absolute most important is that patient education component, and just being able to evaluate, reassess as you go, and then continue on after that. And then I would say another huge misconception that I've come to realize more recently is that when people think of physical therapy, they think once you're injured. And as a profession, we are trying to get more into that preventative care and more of that health and wellness realm. So we want to stop the elderly people from falling before they fall, or preventing those injuries. But most people, when they think of physical therapy, think of it after they're injured, which in most cases right now, yes, it is. But maybe down the line, I'm going to open the doors for...
Trust me. You're talking to the chiropractor. I think chiros and PTs are probably the most blurred of the professions these days. Because now if you wanted to, you can learn how to adjust. We learn how to do rehab. I always say, look, guys, you have an ACL tear. You can go. So we have an ACL replacement. I'm like, I'm not dealing with that. Oh, you hurt your knee playing basketball? Okay, well we can figure it out.
Yeah.
But one of the misconceptions I hear from clients is, and they say it for us too. Once you go, they just always want you to go. It's like 12 weeks. Can I do some of this at my house? What do you say to that?
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's like when a doctor prescribes you medicine to take every day for a couple months, it's the same thing. It's a little more effort, but it's your body. It's something that you need to commit to. And if you're not going to get better, then you can't live your life. It's hard because sometimes you care more than the patient does, but for the most part, you'll get those patients who understand, this pain is keeping me from working or holding my baby or something like that. So when people realize that it affects their lives, then I think they understand, like, hey, I'm committed. I'm coming in every week getting this done. But that is definitely a tough scenario.
Do y'all have companies that try to help, if you're like in an independent clinic, how to manage staff, how to grow the business, but also maybe how to communicate to patients more effectively so they understand? I said 6 weeks, not 6 visits.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that I've heard a lot of times on podcasts, and I don't know specifically about companies, but I know there was a physical therapy clinic in one of the areas of Chicago that just had a continuing education course, not on anything with like hands-on or anything. It was about that communication aspect with the patient. And it's something that we do continually talk about, and it is always a struggle. But one of the things that I think is helpful is establishing that at your first visit. Like, this is going to take some time, but we will get there. You should see little improvements along the road, and maybe let's set smaller goals along the road so they can feel at least a sense of victory as they go and not just be like, God, I'm not back to complete normal by the end. But yeah, it's still a work in progress with every patient.
Do you have any unique abilities or strategies that set you apart from some of your other physical therapy doctors out there?
I think something that I pride myself on is that I think I'm pretty good at establishing that trusting personal connection with my patients. I mean, I'm kind of a chatty person in general, but I like talking with them and trying to explain things to them in ways that they can understand. Like I had a patient look at me the other day, I forget what I was talking about, something with her shoulder. And I could tell, she just paused and kind of stared at me and I could tell she was thinking about something. And she's like, where did you go to school? I just really like the way you explain things to me. No one's ever said it like that. That makes me feel so much better. I was like, wow, that's probably the best compliment I've ever received. So just little things like that, like not my technical skills, hands on. I'm sure there's better therapists out there when it comes to that. But I think if you don't have the ability to establish that trusting relationship with your patient, then you're not going to go anywhere. So I think that is something that helps me excel as a PT.
Well, what's your background? How'd you get into this? And did you have any, one, how'd you get into PT, but also how did you develop interpersonal skills just come naturally or what?
I guess sometimes I think I talk a little too much, but I played sports my whole life, and I guess maybe the fact that it's that team element, you have to be good at communication. I swam and did volleyball in grade school, volleyball and lacrosse in high school, 2 years of lacrosse at Michigan. And I think maybe that team element adds to that development of communication and interpersonal skills. And, growing up and just always being in those sports too, obviously you see a lot of injuries. Luckily, I never had a significant injury, but I've seen a lot of people who've had ACL tears and have gone through rehab. So I became a little familiar with it based on that. And then my mom is actually an occupational therapist. So she she kind of suggested it to me. I explored it when I was applying to college. Okay, what the heck major am I going to choose? I have no idea. I'm one of those people that's always on the go. So I just couldn't picture myself being like sitting at a desk all day. It's just, I could never do it. I would fail miserably. Yeah. So I remember I was applying to University of Wisconsin and University of Michigan, and they both had Wisconsin had a kinesiology major, and then University of Michigan had the School of Kinesiology. So I saw that, had recently shadowed at a PT clinic. I was like, all right, done deal. I'm becoming a physical therapist. So yeah, I knew going into college that that's what I was doing.
Very easy. What about doctors who are struggling, maybe just starting out, getting out of school? Are there any practical steps that they can take to get where you are, or any advice for these?
Yeah, that's a great question. Getting out of school, it's definitely scary, applying for jobs, putting your resume out there, not getting a lot of responses. But what I would say is don't be afraid to ask for what you want. Like when I graduated, I knew that I wanted to come back to Chicago, and where I work now is where I wanted to work. My mind was set on it. It was what I wanted to do because I just really wanted that rotational program to really get my feet wet in every area.
Really nice.
Yeah. So I applied through human resources, crickets, applied again, crickets, and I was getting a little impatient. So I did a little digging, found the number for the director of rehab, called her, and then by the end of that day, had an interview set up. And yeah, that's pretty much how I got the rest of my interviews. So I would say go out, not be aggressive, but don't sit around and wait for things to happen, because a lot of times you don't know what's going on the side of human resources and all of that. And also talking to someone in the actual department, it's putting that human element on it. I mean, people can look at resumes, especially in our profession where you have to have great interpersonal skills, be a good team player, just have a good personality, and just, it's not something that you can get across on paper. So if you can talk to someone in your profession, they put that human element to you. And I think that really just puts you a step up. So
Yeah.
getting in contact with the actual rehab department, I think, is essential. Or, with the actual manager of the PT clinic or anything like that. Do a little digging, get creative. Yeah.
It's true though.
Yeah, it really is. And that's actually something my last clinical instructor told me. She's like, don't do it how you're supposed to do it. Find a different way. Be different. So
Say hello.
yes.
I've applied one time for this hospital, and I think I was like, oh, okay, I'm going nowhere. So I'm just a number, a stack in a resume pile. I was just like, well, that's how it is with the government. So I was like, I'll just play it by ear and maybe do something different next time. Hopefully the resume will be better in a year or two. But if you can talk to somebody, that's a huge, huge bonus for yourself.
Oh, yeah. It's saves so much time.
Now, you may not have any idea about this, but does your hospital or do you have to do any kind of marketing to promote the clinic?
We don't, just because the hospital is a non-for-profit hospital. I mean, I do always want to give the hospital a good name, but we don't.
You said it's Medicaid based too as well, so it's
we
not
do.
Really...
Yeah, we do want doctors' referrals. We want to keep patients coming in. Productivity is still a big thing for us, but it's definitely not like your big chain physical therapy clinics that are like patients coming in and in and in. And I know some clinics, they have to do like doctor marketing, and I don't know how effective that is, where they go to the doctor's offices and drop off some kind of goodie. I'm not sure what. I remember I did a clinical at one, but yeah, I'm not too sure about all of that.
I'm curious because you're actually the doctor and not like the whatever the step below that was.
Masters.
Yeah. I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't know what to call it for you guys. I was like, but at one point you guys weren't doctors, and now you are kind of everybody's trying to become a doctor. Do you have portal of entry now where you don't actually have to have all these MD referrals and your practice is based on them?
So that's what we're fighting for, and it differs by state. So I believe in Illinois, you can do an evaluation or screen, and then you need referrals for treatment. But then I think there's a gray area when it comes to what insurance will cover. So the idea is to get more, like in the military, the PTs in the military, they can order x-rays. There's a limited number of prescriptions they can prescribe. They just have a lot more autonomy and freedom. And that's ideally what it's supposed to be like with our training. But to this day, still, patients have to go to their doctor, get the prescription, then by the time they get their evaluation, come in. And then by that time, they've lost so much time that they could have been working on getting better. That's why we're fighting for it. But it's not something that's
you're trained for it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
at one point, if you quote weren't trained for it is one thing, but if you're trained for it and you're capable of it, it's like, well, I don't need your input. Yeah, I'm the guy who's going to be doing all the work, describing all the treatment plans and everything.
Right. Like we're trained to know when something needs to be referred out to someone else, when something's not musculoskeletal, when something is a little more of a serious condition, we know that's what we're trained for. But
if their diabetes flares up, we'll send them back. Okay. But we got this pinched nerve in the shoulder. All right.
Exactly.
So as for yourself, do you have any 5-year goals, even 10-year goals? Do you have any of those? And how do you know if they're worthy of you pursuing it?
So recently I've become interested in women's health. And with my whole rotational system at this hospital, I've decided that outpatient ortho is ultimately what I want to focus on. I'm glad I got my experience everywhere, and I think it's made me a better clinician. But what I want to do is focus on that outpatient aspect in women's health, just because women's health is such an area that is very needed. And I don't think a ton of therapists are.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, like incontinence, women's pain with pregnancy. There's a whole
That's the first
bunch
thing I think of. Is it like Kegel exercises, or we got what other issues we got here?
A lot of stuff that can go on. But it's very needed. I mean, our women's health therapists are always booked up, and it's hard to get in with them. And just as a woman myself, I really want to pursue that. But I would like to ultimately get more into practicing in that outpatient setting, women's health, and then maybe taking on more of a leadership role, and whether that's where I work now or and working somewhere else, but really just being someone that is, I guess, a good name for the profession, like advocating for physical therapy and being a leader in the profession. And then as far as 10 years, I definitely want to eventually have my own business, whether it doesn't necessarily need to be my own clinic. I want something that is related to health and wellness and that preventative aspect, something I'm very passionate about. And I would ultimately like to have something that I'm kind of running and using as a base to advocate for physical therapy. But we'll work on the specifics down the line.
What they call it? You got to mind map that somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a podcast teaching me how to make my goals and make them specific.
A dozen of them. Well, you mentioned in the pre-talk that you have a website. Explain what that is about. The website. You said something about a broken hand. So give us that story. What's going on with that?
So I'm not gonna lie. After I graduated, and I think this happens with a lot of new physical therapists, like you graduate, you're all jazzed about things you learned in school, going to apply all of them, but you realize things are very different when you go out and start practicing, and then you're working all day rather than, being in class, talking with your friends. It's just a different element, and getting burnt out is easy. And I admit that there was a small point in time where I was just becoming a little bit disengaged, being like, oh God, I got to work for the rest of my life. And it was just like such a negative attitude that I'm embarrassed to say I felt, because I've always been more of a go-getter, always wanting to excel in things. And I was just okay with just getting by, I guess. And so this summer I broke my hand, and what's a physical therapist without functioning hands? So I was temporarily off of work. And that is actually when I discovered a podcast by a physical therapist. I'd never listened to a podcast before, and I just became a woman obsessed. And it really kind of inspired me to get engaged again as a physical therapist and kind of wake up and be like, I have this awesome education, this awesome career. I love the people I work with. I work with some amazing people. Like, snap out of it kind of thing. And I am also like super into fitness, and just realized that's when I kind of realized physical therapy, and our mission statement from the American Physical Therapy Association emphasizes that moving well component. So what I want to do is just educate people on that movement, and moving well is such an important element of fitness for getting those results. So you need to be using correct form, and not just for injury prevention, but even just using the right muscles to get the results you want. So merging those two, just to see, for people to understand the connection, and just for people to understand their bodies. I have so many friends that come up to me and ask these questions that I just think are common knowledge because it's things I deal with every day, but it really isn't. It's just little basic things. And I take a ton of workout. I like going to different workout studios. So I'm seeing a bunch of people working out, doing squats with all kind of crazy form and and stuff like that. And I'm not going to be that person that's like, hey, let's correct that here. Just don't want to be. No one wants that happening to them. So I just thought, hey, I think everyone. I want people to educate me on things I don't know about. I don't know anything about finance and stuff like that. So if I can help someone maybe prevent an injury or just move better or anything.
What's that website called?
It's called the PhytChick. It is with a PHYT. So, like physical therapy and fitness combined, thephytchick.com. And my tagline is fitness with a physical therapy twist.
There we go. You were talking about people doing horrible motions at the gym. I mean, I'm in a small town here, and they just got a gym, and I just see some of these people, and they're rocking. They're doing a bicep curl, man. They're rocking. They're going maybe like 70 to, what is that, 45 degrees? They're not even going parallel. I'm just like, wow, whatever.
It's crazy, and you see these I guess beefy looking guys too, and I'm like, and they come into the clinic with these injuries, and then you watch how they're doing their exercise, and you're like, no wonder. just like
hey girl, let me show you how to squat correctly. Trust me, I'm big.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just little things that we think are common knowledge, just that aren't, really aren't.
No. What do you where do you see your healthcare profession going in the next 3 to 5 years? What's your projections? I
think there's going to be a lot more of this advocating for our profession and a lot more of moving towards that health and wellness aspect. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know if it's because I've recently gotten into the whole listening to podcast thing, but I've been noticing that there's a lot of physical therapists out there that are on that path and are excited about being a physical therapist, are connecting, are with other physical therapists and other health and wellness professionals, and really making it more of a team effort. And what I hope to see down the road is that physical therapy is something when people feel pain or have an injury, they don't automatically think, I need to get pain meds or I need to go and like get an x-ray. I mean, if you have a broken bone or, if there's a trauma, yes. But I would hope that physical therapy comes to people's minds before their physician says, okay, you need physical therapy. So I think there's like a whole campaign for get PT first or something like that, that advocates for getting PT. But yeah, I just want it to be more, I see it as being more of a well-known profession, I guess.
Yeah. Well, in ours, I was, listening to podcasts. That's why I started this one. And I'm realizing like there's all these podcasts and this group of people that are chiropractic, rah, rah, rah. And let's get back to the basics. We don't need to do all this PT stuff. Let's just crack a back because that's what, they would kill me if I said that. So when we adjust the spine in a very specific location, but there's a whole group of people. There's these huge conferences throughout the year. And I was like, I had no idea that these things were going on. And I'm listening to one podcast. They talk about the research of chiropractic, and he gets super excited when he hears it's actually a chiropractic manipulation and not like an osteopath or a physical therapy or whatever. So you guys are doing a lot of the research that we should be doing, but I think you guys have a nice advantage because you're in a lot of the medical facilities, so you can do the research that needs to be done. And we're like just sitting on the sidelines. We're like, y'all better be careful. We're not going to be a profession. They're going to take it over. They're going to do everything that we do. We're going to be obsolete. Y'all better get on it, boys.
There's room for all of us. There's room for all of us. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm going on a tangent today. So we're going to switch gears to do a little bit more of the personal side. Is that ready?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So you work in a hospital, so you don't have the exact issues that a lot of the solo practitioners have about vacation, but are you able to customize your schedule at all? And how do you take vacation in your setting?
So I think we get a very generous amount of vacation days. And I think working in a hospital, we are able to manipulate our schedules a little easier, where I take a lot of long weekends. I call them my mini vacations, and it's just a great reset. Like every winter I go to Colorado at least twice because I love skiing and snowboarding. So I'm actually going next weekend and then once in March. Nice. Yeah. But the great thing, so we get a lot of paid time off days, and then also, so if you work a weekend day, you get a day during the week off. So a lot of times we can kind of finagle it where, okay, and if it's within the same pay period. So I've been fortunate enough to take some long weekends without using all of my PTO, because if I've worked a Saturday within that pay period, then that I can take a long weekend the next weekend without using a paid time off day. So
that's convenient.
Yeah, taking a lot of mini vacations, I think, like have one big one and then a lot of mini ones. It's perfect. It keeps you leave, you had some good time, come back, you're ready to go.
Where's your favorite place in Colorado to ski and such?
Steamboat Springs. Love it. I mean, I've been all over, but I grew up going to Steamboat, and it's just such an awesome place. The whole vibe there is really, relaxed and happy, and there's live music usually at the end of the day, and it's just beautiful. It's great.
Yeah. I lived there. We used to joke. There was one resort that would say, friends don't let friends drive on I-70 because on the way back, it's like 5 hours of traffic just sitting around.
Yeah, if you're driving on a Sunday back, you're doomed.
Good
or there's a
that.
snowstorm, good luck.
Yeah, I was more like, can I just go to Estes Park and hike in the snow? I don't need to ripped my, I did I did a front flip, crushed my neck, felt like my knee was going to rip in half. I was like, yeah, this snowboarding is definitely not for Justin. No,
yeah,
sir.
I was lucky. I learned when I was young, when you fall and you bounce right back up.
Oh, man. Well, so here we go. Hobbies, volunteering. What, besides physical therapy, maybe the website, what else occupies your mind?
I really do. And I know people say you can't really enjoy working out. I really do enjoy fitness. I love Pilates reformer. And then my family lives in Chicago as well. So I'm really big with hanging out with them, and hanging out with my sisters, and just really spending time with friends. And recently I've been spending a ton of time on doing my blog and my website. So
but that's fun too if you enjoy it.
Yeah, I really do. It's been my way to keep myself engaged in the profession.
It's what we do all day. I mean, the burnout is real.
Yeah.
And if you don't have something to get you energized, whether that's being a lobbyist, or doing seminars or doing a blog, it gets monotonous pretty quick, I think, or it could.
A lot of people are like, so what's the end goal here with this blog? I was like, what do you mean? I like it. I want to educate people. It's really my way to keep myself excited about being a physical therapist.
Yeah. Well, I can see you doing speaking engagements because you got a lot of energy. I think.
Well, thank you.
I mean, however you get that involved, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always thought about that. Like, there's all these, circuits running around for continuing ed, and I'm just like, how do you get involved with that? I was like, well, I don't know these people, I guess.
And it's funny because I always thought, physical therapy, it's not really a job that you go to networking events, and because a lot of my friends are in that business side of things, and they're always like, oh, I have a networking event here and here. And I never thought that way until recently when I started listening to all these podcasts and stuff. And it's just, networking with other physical therapists and talking with them. And then I guess that's how speaking engagements and everything happens, and getting invited to special conferences. So it's really, really opened my eyes recently. That whole breaking of the hand, I would say it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
So that's recent then, the breaking of the hand.
Yeah. It was this, end of this summer or early fall. But I was off of work for about 2 months.
Wow.
And I was healed, but I still had a lifting restriction. So it was technically I could work, but it becomes a liability for the hospital, I think.
Yeah, that's no good.
Yeah. So I had a lot of free time in my hands.
I sprained my finger once. It made adjusting difficult.
I would imagine.
I was like, I don't have work comp for this.
Yeah.
It was my own fault. All right. We always have this struggle between a life with our house, with our family, and with work. How do you manage the work-life balance and dating, marriage? How do you deal with that?
That's a good question. I think with physical therapy, it's nice because you don't take your physical work home with you. I mean, it's not really a job. You can work from home. Mm-hmm. So I know some places you can document at home. We don't do that, but even if we could, I would prefer to stay late, get my work done, and then get home. And the thing that is difficult as a physical therapist, especially when you work in a setting like spinal cord injury or on the acute care side, when you see the gunshot wound victims or those little babies, it can be tough to not take that mental element of it home with you, where you just see someone's life change so quickly. Mm-hmm. So it really is one of those things you have to learn to just leave it at work and shut it down and don't bring it home. Because I think that can make it an exhausting career. And you're there to help. And one of those things to think about is that this thing happened, but you're the person that's going to help them get back to living independently. So it's a positive way to look at it. But that's one of those important things to leave at the door. But physical work, if you have the option to not do it at home, don't ever do it at home. I like to look at my home space as where I can drop off my work bag, maybe go work out, maybe sit down, and watch some TV. But as far as, in like the dating aspect, just when both of you are busy with doing a bunch of different things, I think it's important just establishing at least one thing that you connect on, like a TV series that you might watch once a week together or something like that. Like I think Bloodline was show I recently got into. So it's something you can connect on, you can talk about, that's not work related at all, and just something completely separate that you two can connect on that aren't, work related.
Right.
Yeah.
I got a question because you are a doctor, and I've when I was single and doing the online game and enjoying having conversations, lots of one and done relationships, as they say. Some people were like, guys are afraid of highly educated and successful women. Are you finding that an issue, or do you just you gravitate to a pool of men that are like equal on the same playing field?
I definitely like people that are ambitious and driven, but I don't know if it's my personality where I'm very smiley, I would say, and I tend to be welcoming, I guess, is that it doesn't give off that intimidating vibe. Like if you told someone I was intimidating, they'd probably laugh.
Well, intimidating more in like, a doctor typically they're smarter, they might make more money than me. And how do I compete with that?
I think a lot of my friends...
You want to go to Colorado? I would, but I can't afford it. So.
I think a lot of my friends, they definitely respect it. And the thing with physical therapy is it's such a recent change to that doctoral level, is that a lot of people don't know the level of education it takes to become a physical therapist. So a lot of people probably don't even realize it, because I'm not going around and being like, hey, I'm Dr. Conroy. Look at me. But I think my friends that do know how much schooling it takes, they definitely respect it. Like, wow, that's pretty cool. You're a doctor. I mean, no one calls me, my patients don't call me doctor. They call me Erin. It's a casual relationship. I mean, my grandma likes to call me doctor, but she's very proud.
Yeah, they typically are.
But I am very proud of it, but I also like to keep things, I don't like to feel like I'm this powerful person looking down at anyone. It's just, everyone has their own talents and what they're smart with, and
I just thought I'd ask. I was kind of curious. Most of the people are married on the show, so I don't have this opportunity. So it's kind of fun to ask.
It might be a different answer if it was an MD or DO, just because those, that's just that stereotypical, it's like, oh, you're a doctor kind of thing. Yeah. So I think since physical therapy isn't as well understood in that area, it's not as big of a thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Last couple questions. Do you have any morning or lunch routine that grounds you or excites you for the rest of the day?
I've been trying recently to get so much better at this. So my schedule varies a little because the days I go in the NICU, I start at 7 so I can sync up with their feeding schedules. And they usually start feeding by 8. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I don't start work till 9. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I will try and get a morning workout in on those days. And those days, it's usually a spin class, because in the morning I like to have someone encouraging me, telling me to get moving. But if I don't work out in the morning, my day is so different. I have less energy. I'm just not as ready to go when I get to work. But I'm trying recently to set like a mantra for the day, and then set a time like during lunch to just check in, reset, and get going for the afternoon, because it's just so easy to get caught up in all your documentation and just patient after patient that you don't have a time to just sit and take a break. And I think you can actually be a little more productive if you take a step back and then get going. My friend Wade, actually, she's a life coach, and she just held a mindfulness moments workshop the other night. So now this whole mindfulness thing is on the mind.
I like it.
But she's pretty awesome. She is like this really inspirational person. She lost her mother to cancer. Her sister had cancer. She was diagnosed with cancer and had to leave school. And then now she's the most positive person I know, and has these like 90-second meditation, a free 90-second meditation on her website that is just, I think, perfect for like that lunchtime reset, because a lot of us don't have, it'll stress us out more to be like, 10 minutes away from doing my work or something like that.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
What's your mantra?
Varies day by day.
You don't have to answer.
Like there's ones where this is really embarrassing, but like with like working out and just accomplishing those goals and not, a lot of times I think I get that imposter syndrome type thing where it's like, oh, am I good enough to do this? Just like, I am fierce. Like, I got this. So it's a little embarrassing, but it's what works for me. But just that couple words that you say in your head and you're like, yeah, all right, stop doubting yourself here.
we all have our own self-doubts and our own issues. So
yeah,
whatever it takes, there's no judgment on my end. That's for sure. That's cool.
Never said that out loud before to anyone. So.
I'm fierce.
I'm running on the treadmill.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, they have those mirrors in front of you.
Oh yeah, the imperfections are there, so you have to work through it.
Not good.
Mm-hmm. Good grief. Okay, so do you have any favorite books, blogs? You mentioned podcasts, but not any names that you secretly love, and some that you feel like the rest of the people should take notice of.
Yes. So my absolute favorite podcast and what inspired me to start listening to podcasts, and I credit this podcast for changing my view of physical therapy, is called Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart. It's by a physical therapist. It's Dr. Karen Litzy. She runs a concierge cash-based PT in Manhattan. So she's doing pretty well, I think. But yeah, she's just really great to listen to. Has a lot of great guests and it's not just for physical therapists. She has a lot of entrepreneurs in like tech or other healthcare professionals, personal trainers, or she had someone who, I think the creator of Edgar, which is helps with the automation of social media to give you more time with your business. So it's a lot of different elements that I think are helpful for anyone, especially someone that's in the healthcare industry that is running their own business or just wants to be a better clinician. It just helps give just good thinking points, I think. So it's definitely not just for physical therapists. She just happens to be one, and some of them are focused towards that. But that is by far my favorite podcast, just because, my first one.
Yeah, hey, there's always the first one.
Yeah.
But that's exciting, though, because if you cover a lot of different topics, you can feel like, I don't have a lot of hours to listen to podcasts, so what's the best bang for my buck?
Absolutely, yeah. It's been very helpful.
And the fun last question. Mm-hmm. We all have our smartphones. Do you have any favorite apps, whether it's business or pleasure, that you just always lean to?
So I don't use a ton of apps, but the one that I do really love is the Skim. Have you ever heard of the Skim? So this is actually a daily newsletter email that they send out, but they have an app called Skim Ahead. So the Skim, two women created it. It's kind of like a cliff notes of the news, a spark notes of the news, just summarizing every little important detail that you should know. But they write it in it's very witty. It's very easy to read. I'll laugh out loud a few times while reading it. I'll drink my coffee while reading it. It takes me a couple minutes. And honestly, then you can hold your own with any conversation when people are talking about current events just by reading that. And the app, Skim Ahead, it can sync with your calendar, and it just tells you about important events, whether it's like a pop culture related thing or something with, with politics. They'll tell you what you need to know, so you don't miss anything and you don't feel lost.
It sounds convenient because especially with all this, the world's going to end Trump people.
Yeah.
My goodness, I'm over here. I'm like, okay, what's the big issue now? I'm trying to figure it out. You got to read like 3 or 4 articles.
Where you're safe because protests are everywhere. The world is ending.
I know.
It's crazy.
I got to read 4 articles just to figure out, okay, well, what's going on? So maybe this will be nice.
The Skim is for you. It's seriously awesome. I have never felt like I didn't know something that was important. And then if it's something that intrigues you, they'll link out to other places, or you just, okay, this little blurb, I want to learn more about that. Then you know what you want to go and learn about. It's great. It's such an awesome business.
Do you have anything else you want to chat about? And then how can people find you or reach out if they want to?
Anything I want to chat about? I don't think I haven't. I think we covered a whole lot. I'm sure we could always talk about more, but yeah, I think this has been a great conversation and I've loved chatting with you. people can find me a few places. So you can email me. It's Erin, ERIN, at thephytchick.com. And then you can find me on Instagram at thephytchick and Twitter at thephytchick. And I believe, on Facebook, I have a Facebook page, also the PhytChick. So nice. Just remember PHYT for fit. Yeah, very I would good. Love to hear from anyone and just really love engaging with people, hearing any thoughts. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me.
All right, fantastic. Well, hope you have a great trip to Colorado coming up.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you being on the show.
Oh yeah, and I can't wait to hear more of your travel tips on your podcast.
Oh, I got to find one for you. What do you want to hear this week?
Oh, I don't know. I really liked the eat locally one. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Like, where you look and see where it's, because I spend so much time Googling, all right, what is the hot spot here? Look at Yelp, and it stresses me out. So.
Oh, yeah. I hear you. I've been to some places sometimes you're like, okay, well, everybody's eating here. I guess I won't get sick afterwards. Cross my fingers.
Otherwise, we're all going down together.
That's it. All right. Well, you have a fantastic 2017.
Thank you. You too.
I had a good time talking to her today. I'm sure you did too. I gave a little more 2 cents than usual. Hope that was all right. Look, head on over to her blog, thephytchick.com. It's pretty nice. I think you'll agree. Reach out to her on Instagram and other social medias. Remember, find your passion so that you don't get the burnout. She started a blog. What can you do? And remember, be fierce. Show notes can be found at adoctorsperspective.net/08. Stay tuned for the travel tip at the end of the episode. Just want to give a general reminder. The ebook, when it comes out, if you were to go to adoctorsperspective.net, on the right side of the screen, on a pop-up, on the bottom of the screen, there's all kinds of places where you can put your email. And when that comes out, for a limited time, I can send it to you for free. It's not only a book about nutrition and exercise, it's actually like blueprints. If you haven't really been able to stick to a diet much in your life, if you haven't really done much exercise and it's kind of a daunting and you get demotivated quickly, I have steps, implemental steps for you to take to make big changes overall, but small changes to start with, to get accustomed to maybe eating less food, to how to build up to 20 minutes of exercise and things like that. So if you're interested, sign up, because it's not only something that you could implement for yourself, especially if you are not in peak health, but also it's something that you can either give or sell to your patients so that they can have a blueprint for themselves. You can find me online on all the popular sites. The easiest way to do it is go to adoctorsperspective.net. And if you look at the top right, there's all these little social media icons. Just click whichever flavor you like best, and it'll send you directly to that page. You can subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, Facebook, Instagram, etc. I do a lot of travel photos on Instagram, so I hope you like it, as well as Flickr has a wide variety of those same pictures, but a lot more. And of course, I'm very active on Facebook, so connect, comment, and I will respond. Today's travel tip, I know we were joking about getting her input, but today's travel tip will be hire a personal driver. If you're going to an Asian country, at least, you could probably find a personal driver for really inexpensive, especially if you're going farther, far places, or traveling around the town. It might be something to consider. Obviously, if it's in the city and everything you want to do is in the city, you probably just take subways and buses and things. But if it's farther away, like an hour or 2 hours, like some places you go and you fly into, one place, but all the attractions, the cool stuff, the scenery, the mountains, the rivers, whatever, are far away. And you can try to find a bus and all that, but it might be just better to hire a tour group or a private driver. And that way it's on your time and you'll be comfortable. If you want to get some food, you can go to the bathroom. There's no problems. They're flexible. And then it's almost like a personal guide, because they can tell you, oh, this is a cool spot. This is a cool thing. Here's the landscape. Here's the history. And it's very convenient. We just went #behind the curtain, and this episode has come to an end. I hope you got the right dose for your optimal life. Please spread the word about this podcast by telling 2 friends, sharing on social media, And visit the show notes on adoctorsperspective.net to see all the references from today's guest. A sincere thank you in advance. You've been listening to Dr. Justin Trosclair, giving you a doctor's perspective.